So Errol Spence gave his reaction to Fundora versus Ocampo, where he said, going to war with Ocampo. Now, for the people that don't know, Errol Spence knocked out Ocampo in the first round for his first title defense. On that day, Errol Spence wasn't even supposed to fight Ocampo. However, because at that time Errol Spence was the boogeyman, where his own IBF mandatory, who was also undefeated, ended up turning down the title shot against Errol Spence, and we haven't heard anything from him since. I don't even know if he's still fighting. I guess Errol Spence really made his own mandatory quit the sport. Nevertheless, that's when Ocampo back then stepped up to the plate and saved the day by accepting to fight the boogeyman at that time, Errol Spence, which was a big deal. Just the fact that Ocampo accepted to fight Errol, and we all saw what Errol Spence did to the undefeated Ocampo, which takes me to my point. Errol Spence once said, leading up to the Danny Garcia fight, when he was describing Danny, that Danny Garcia is one-trick pony. He's one-dimensional. He doesn't have different gears. He can't take it to a different level. And it's fair to say the same things Errol Spence said about Danny Garcia then could be said about Fundora now, as Fundora is a one-trick pony. He's one-dimensional and doesn't have different gears to his game. As we all saw last night against Ocampo, Fundora was unable to pull the trigger in order to get the hurt and exhausted Ocampo out of there. Fundora was unable to switch gears to get a fatigued Ocampo that was already hurt out of there. He stayed fighting at that same pace, allowing Ocampo to catch a second win and even come back and hurt Fundora in the 10th round. That's why Fundora started boxing in the 11th and 12th round. Fundora ended up finding out the hard way. If you let an opponent hang around, he might come back and hurt you, which is exactly what Ocampo did. But I'm afraid Fundora did not allow Ocampo to hang around by choice. He just couldn't pull the trigger. He couldn't switch gears. As we all saw last night, that Fundora was unable to turn it up on a hurt and exhausted opponent. If you compare that to what Errol Spence did when he knocked out the undefeated Ocampo in the first round when he was still fresh and not hurt, that further shows in the sport of boxing, there's levels to this. Time and time again, Errol Spence showed us that he's not a B-level fighter. He's not even an A-level fighter, but more so, an elite level fighter. That's why Errol Spence is boxing pound for pound number 2. He's an elite level fighter that can switch gears and multi-dimensional. As we seen Errol Spence turn it up on Ugas and Kell Brook, where he ended up getting them out of there in no time. Even when you take a look at Crawford, boxing pound for pound number 1, you see the different levels. The way Crawford turned it up to a different level by going Super Saiyan when he knocked out Shawn Porter. It's like when Crawford smells blood, the fight is over with. More importantly, this is not about getting the knockout. Don't get me wrong, that's impressive. However, it's more so about being able to switch gears, being able to turn it up and down. That's part of being a completed fighter, which is what makes Errol Spence and Crawford so special. I mean, you're not going to be able to get every opponent out of there, but when it's a showcase fight, like for Fundora's case, an opponent that Errol Spence knocked out in the first round, and Fundora had Ocampo dead. The man was a dead man walking. Even then, Fundora was unable to pull the trigger. Furthermore, the bad news for Fundora, being a one-dimensional fighter that only could fight in one gear, not being able to switch gears, should be the least of his worries. His main concern should be his defense. A fighter like Ocampo, who Fundora is fighting in a showcase fight, should not be hitting Fundora over 400 times. That's worrying for Fundora. All of the other stuff is secondary. Switching gears and all of that, that's just the icing on the cake for the fighters on the elite level. But for Fundora's case, the main concern is his defense. If that was Crawford, Errol Spence, or Charlo hitting Fundora with the same shots Ocampo hit him with, then it's going to be a very short night for Fundora. With that being said, drop your thoughts in the comment section below, subscribe below, and click on the notification bell to be continued on the next episode of Akhi, Akhi, TV. Peace, and have a blessed day.